Welcome back to another edition of the Hit the Books March Madness Bracket Challenge. Today we got another guest from the Hit the Books channel. You may know him from the College Football Friday edition or the College Basketball Monday and Friday show with Corby, as we had him on doing his first bracket as he filled it out. Got all the way to the end, picked Gonzaga. Tom, I'm sure that is not surprising to you to hear that, as that was a bet that was given out on the Hit the Books show earlier this year. But as we get closer and closer to Thursday, March Madness officially tipping off. How excited are you for this tournament this year?
Oh, I'm excited. I already got the bags under the eyes. I'm biting my fingernails. It's my favorite time of year. I love March Madness. Not only just for the betting, I love college sports more than pro sports. So anything like this, I just really enjoy watching. Obviously, I want to win money too, but the whole atmosphere and environment is something I look forward to all season.
Well, I teased there that you were doing the college football show and you did the college basketball show. If you had a choice, which one is your preference? College basketball, college football, where do you side towards?
So football is my favorite sport, to watch and just to, my kids play. I love football. College basketball is my favorite sport to bet. That's where college football football's hard to bet, whether it's
Right.
pro or college. You finish ahead in college football. That's a pretty good season. I think college basketball, for me, having been around it for the last 30 years, those first 2 to 3 months, you can really get an edge over the books and build yourself up a bankroll. I mean, now it's hard to bet. I mean, it's the sports book. The poor sports books can't catch a break, can they? When college basketball is easy to bet, everyone's betting football and losing money there. And then when a college basketball is hard to bet, they come over here and start betting college basketball. But no, I love to bet college basketball. I think analyzing sports, this would be my favorite one.
All right. Well, I'm interested to hear your bracket breakdown and where you go with all these picks. But before I get into that, if you do want to compete against the creators on this show, the creators at the Hammer Betting Network, make sure to click the link in the description of this video. You can also find it on the Hit the Books HQ Twitter, as well as the Hammer HQ Twitter. So you can see Tom's bracket, you can see Corby's bracket, some of the other creators that we're going to have. You can go head to head with everyone in there and see how you match up against them. But Tom, one thing that we've kind of discussed, I'm going to ask everyone who does the show because it's interesting to hear their breakdowns and their reasoning why. But you get into different pools. Obviously, you can get different sizes of pools. You can match up against different people, whether it be your friends, betting peers, different experts, or you're going into the mass ESPN pool. There's different strategies that people like to take. If we're going into a smaller pool like we are here for the Hammer pool this year, what kind of strategy do you go into this with? Is there a specific one that you have, or is it more just relying on your knowledge of the teams? Like, does your strategy vary at all into these?
Yeah, it really depends on the region. I have some strategy in the West region I'll mention when we get there. It's just years ago, I would take way too many upsets. Like, I know we love upsets and everything, but yeah, how many tournaments do we see where you see 5 Kennesaw States win? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's so I think what I learned over the years is there's a difference between taking points and actually picking that team to win. Like, I
Mhm.
wouldn't be surprised if Princeton covers 15 against Arizona. I don't think Princeton's going to beat Arizona, so I'm not going to take that in my bracket. The other thing too is there's some of these, chic upset picks that not only in just the spread, but I think there's some value in going the other way sometimes now. Like, you even just look at the lines, like, there's no value in taking underdogs anymore. Like I mentioned Kennesaw State, they're like 11 and a half point underdog. That line a decade ago would have been 15 plus, but people bet the dogs. They like betting the dogs. The books know it. So in these contests, you kind of know coming in who are going to be the hot, upset picks. So
Mhm.
sometimes I might go against those. Listen, I know everyone likes Furman, but Virginia is better than Furman. So Virginia, that's why they're favorites. And if I don't see a big edge for Furman, I might go the other way on that.
All right, fair enough. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into the bracket. We'll start here with the South Division, starting with the Alabama game. 1 versus 16. Are we getting another upset this year, Tom, or is this one just Alabama rolling through?
This one is Alabama rolling through. There's not many teams in the country that like to beat up on inferior teams like Alabama. So good luck to whoever they're facing in the first round. That's over.
Okay, fair enough. Maryland, West Virginia.
Yeah, one of the most even games, I think, in round one. I really liked West Virginia as a potential bet in the first round. I don't really like who they got though, because Maryland can handle the ball well. They got good guards. I was hoping West Virginia might get an Iowa, where they could use their athleticism. I'm still going to lean West Virginia. They play in that Big 12. I think getting out of there, West Virginia gets the win over Maryland.
All right, and next, our first 5 versus 12. And I talked to you before we started recording this. One of the things every year everyone says is a 5 has to beat a 12. I don't know, is this something that you buy, or 12 has to beat a 5, excuse me. Is this something that you buy into?
Yeah, I have friends who actually texted me last night which 12 is going to beat a 5, right? I think in recent years, the 13 over the 4 has actually happened more. I don't know if I haven't looked that up, but I know at one point in the last couple years, the 13 over 4 was actually a little bit more profitable, but we always do see, and the reason is the 12 is that line, right? That 12, 13, those are still pretty talented teams. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think the games are closer than their seed. So I do have one, I believe, in this tournament. This isn't it. As much as I hate to take San Diego State in round one, I think if they can just get over that mental hurdle of winning in round one, I think they're going to be dangerous, but they got to do that first. This is going to be a good game. Two really good teams, but I think the Aztecs advance.
Okay, fair enough. We'll lock that one in. And then you discussed here UVA, the better team, or UVA and Furman matchup, taking the better team here. So who are you going to side with in this 4 versus 13?
Yeah, I don't like Virginia at all as a team, but I followed the SoCon really closely this year because I had Samford to win the regular season. It went down to the final game against Furman,
Mhm.
and they came up short. Now, listen, Furman can shoot the ball, but we know what Virginia can do. They can defend. This is a game I just worry that if Furman doesn't have a great defense, and if they have trouble scoring that 80 to 90 points like they're used to, I think Virginia is gonna, who doesn't always score. I don't think they're gonna have a lot of resistance in this game. I can understand taking the 5.5 with Furman, but I'm gonna take Virginia to advance.
Okay. Next up, Creighton, NC State here. Where are we at?
Well, my Creighton team. So this is my region because this is where my
Yep.
futures are going to go to die. Hopefully, in that second round, you put me out of my misery with Creighton and Baylor. So I'm actually going to pick Creighton just so I can watch that game in misery. And then I'm going to take Baylor to win as well, just so at least finally I can stop rooting for one of those teams. But I will say this: I've heard the media the last 24 hours talk about Creighton this, Creighton that. I have to wonder if they've actually watched the team. Everybody's still talking about a team from September that we thought was going to be the Creighton Blue Jays. They've never been that team. And I don't really think we're going to see it now. I wouldn't be surprised if NC State beats them. But like I said, I'll go for that Creighton Baylor second round the Casale barn burner in round two.
Yeah, that was the one I was following along with because I obviously do the show with you and Corby all year long. I've heard you talking about Creighton. I heard you talk about Baylor, so I was getting ready for that matchup to come up on here. But final 2 games in this South Division, you're looking at Arizona beating Princeton there, and
Yep.
now you're going to go up in the 10-7 game. Who is taking on Arizona in the second round?
So I'm in the minority here. Everybody likes Utah State. I like Missouri. I think it's going to be, listen, again, another competitive game, but Missouri's been undervalued all year. And I think the way they pressure and defend, they don't defend the 3 that great. That's the one edge that Utah State has in this game. But I
Mhm.
think if their athletes can get out and run against Utah State, they'll have some success. This is a coin flip game. I'm just going to go against the grain and take the Tigers.
Okay, let's finish out the South here until we get to at least the final 4 teams. So we'll start back up at the top. We're going to take Alabama, West Virginia. is Alabama just continuing to cruise through to the next round
Yeah,
here?
West Virginia doesn't have the defense, especially the transition defense, to beat Alabama.
Okay, and in the 4-5, the team going on to take on Alabama in the next round, San Diego State, UVA. Who would you be looking at here?
Yeah, I actually hope I'm wrong with this matchup because this will be the most disgusting game in the tournament by a mile with these two teams. But again, I don't really like Virginia, and I think if San Diego State gets by that first game, they can get one more win and even maybe compete a little bit with Alabama. So give me the Aztecs.
All right, now, Tom, this is the game you don't want to see, but you are sitting there waiting for patiently. Creighton Baylor. How's this one playing out for you?
Yeah, the two of my list of biggest frauds of the season right here. But in my opinion, I think Baylor doesn't play defense with any intensity, and they don't rebound defensively, which means I don't see them making a big run in this tournament. But to me, Creighton has just never come together. I mean, that effort against Xavier. I had Marquette the following night because I just knew that had nothing to do with Xavier. That was all Creighton in that game.
Right.
And there's just something, a lot of them got a lot of the nil money. The players never came together. I think Baylor advances.
Okay. And final game, who's facing off against Baylor in this next round? Mizzou, Arizona State.
Yeah, here's where Mizzou's tempo could hurt them because they're going to have these big guys for Arizona can get down the court. Um, I just this will be a good matchup if this is the game for Arizona. So I'm going to take Arizona.
All right. And then to get to the final of the South here, Alabama, San Diego State, Baylor, Arizona. What are we looking at in both of these games? Who goes on to the finals of the South?
I think if San Diego State gets this far, they can compete with Alabama. They can give them problems. But Alabama right now, with the way their guards are playing, and with San Diego State always having that issue of going scoreless for 6 or 7 minutes, I'm going to take Alabama to win that game.
All right. And then Baylor, Arizona.
I think Baylor would have a chance here. The problem is what I mentioned, the defensive rebounding. Their guards are miles better than Arizona's guards, but I worry about them getting beaten up on the boards against a bigger front line, and this would be the bigger front line. So I'm going to lean Arizona.
Okay. So we'll take Arizona there. And then now you have Alabama, Arizona, the team to go to the Final Four. Who are you picking in this one?
I think for me, Alabama, if you look at the one seeds, that's the one where I see I have a hard time finding them not going to the Final Four. I think a couple teams there could give them a little, give them a game, but it just sets up very well for the Tide to make the Final Four.
All right, so there you go. There's the team coming out of the South to go to the Final Four, Alabama. Let's hop on over to the Midwest and go through those to get to our next team entering the Final Four. We'll start at the top. Houston has been the team that's been favored all year long to win the championship. Are they just going to continue to power through the division so far this year?
Well, they're going to win their first game, but if Marcus Sasser doesn't play, their run isn't going to be what people thought. You can't lose a guy who scores 17.6 points per game and is one of your best defenders days before the tournament. So I do like him in the first game. We'll have to see if Sasser ends up coming back in this first weekend.
Iowa, Auburn in the next game to determine who goes on to play against Houston in that next round. Who do you like in that one?
I'm going to go with Auburn because of their athleticism. I think Iowa struggles with athletic teams, so I think Auburn pressuring the ball gets the win.
Okay, and now this next game, if anybody had watched the previous video on the Hit the Books channel with Corby, which I encourage you to do because we do have some little differences in the bracket here. You get to hear everyone's breakdowns of why and maybe why they feel differently about different teams, but Miami Drake, Corby did lean towards Drake in this one, did pick them for the upset. Is this something that you're buying into, or do you think Miami holds strong as the 5 and takes out the 12 and Drake?
I'm going with my man CC only because of the injury to Omir, who I think is one of the most important players in the country to his team. This guy is a rebounding machine, second in the country in offensive rebounding. Now, listen, I'm not a doctor, but the ankle injury looked bad. So even if he plays, I just don't see him being 100%. And I was hoping Miami would get a little bit easier draw to allow his ankle to get better. Drake is not that easy draw. They're one of the best mid-major teams. They're experienced, and they're one of the best defensive rebounding teams in the country. So this is a game they would really need Amir to be healthy. I don't think he will be. Good game, but I'm going to take Drake for the upset.
Okay, there we go. Back to back, we're taking the 12 and over the 5 with Drake in back to back videos there. Now, next one, Indiana, Kent. What side do you lean towards here?
This is one of those ones I think I'm going to go against the grain. Listen, Kent has proven that they're a good team. They played Houston tough. They played Gonzaga tough earlier this year. I just feel like Indiana has a little bit too much size for them. Indiana, for me, is the toughest team to figure out because they remind me of last year's Alabama team. They could lose in round one or they could make the Final Four. It really depends on what team shows up. I don't think they're the best coach team, but this is going to be a really good game. If I ever would get off my couch, I would go watch this in Albany, New York, but I'm going to stay on my couch and watch it on TV. I lean Indiana in a close one.
Okay. And a few more games left in this side. We got Iowa State and the winner of the Mississippi State Pitt game here.
I'm going to go with Iowa State only because that was a team I liked in the Big 12, maybe winning a game or two here. I will say I'd prefer the team to be Mississippi State.
Okay, now we move to the 3 versus 14 Xavier Kennesaw. Where are we at here?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the upset here. Kennesaw, I thought, was a team that might be able to pull a big upset in round one, and Xavier's a team I've just never been behind this year. 70th in defensive efficiency. I think that comes back to hurt you in the tournament. I think Kennesaw might not pull the outright upset, but I think they compete in this game and keep it close.
Okay, now moving on. Final 2 games, Texas A&M, Penn State, and Texas Colgate. Who do you like moving on in both of those ones?
Well, I think Texas is going to slam Colgate. I think that's an awful matchup. Colgate has played the 335th toughest schedule in the country, which means it was easy. And their defensive metrics are still terrible. And the Patriot League was really, really, really bad this year. So Texas wins easy, I think, even though you hear people that one of the things with a name like Colgate that's been there for a few years, people don't really look at the team. This isn't one of the better Colgate teams. There's been Colgate teams that had a chance in the tournament. This isn't one of them, I don't think. Texas wins big. This Penn State Texas A&M game, that's keeping me up at night trying to figure out who's going to win this one. That is a great, great first round game. Penn State is a team I had written down before the Big Ten tournament as someone that could win a couple games here. Then they kind of got hot, and now a lot of people are on them. I'm still going to go with them. I like the guard play and the experience. I think they get by A&M.
Okay. Now, to close out the Midwest Division, we'll go back, pick through these games. So we'll start with the 1 versus 9. Houston, Auburn. Who do you like going through there?
Yeah, I think Auburn would be lucky to score 50 points in this game. Houston's the kind of team that will lock them down defensively with or without Sasser. But this gets dangerous after here. That's where Sasser, I think, has to be back.
Okay, does Drake continue through and beat Indiana in the next round here?
They do. I'm going to go good Indiana round 1, bad Indiana round 2. Give me Drake to move on against Houston.
I like it. We got a lot of differences going on with the picks here. We got some excitement that's going to happen. Now flipping over to the other side, Iowa State, Kennesaw here.
I'm going to go with Iowa State. I know we don't know who they're playing in round 1, and I always hate the thing. I get nervous with that first 4 team gets a little momentum. I wish Iowa State didn't have to play the first 4 team, but I think their defense is good enough to win 2 games here.
Okay. And facing off against Iowa State in that round would be the winner of Texas Penn State. Who do you have moving forward?
This is what I think. I think Texas's second round game is as hard as any top seed, whoever it is, Penn State or A&M. I think if Texas gets by that game, watch out. They're going to be tough. They're going to go a long, long way. But I do think they got to be on upset alert because either one of those teams can take Texas out. I'm going to go with Texas defense just too strong for Penn State.
All right, now final four of the Midwest Division. We're gonna have number 1 taking on 12 in Houston and Drake, and then on the other side we have 6 versus 2 with Iowa State and Texas. So we'll start with the first game. Does Drake's legendary Cinderella run come to an end against Houston, or how does this play out in your eyes?
This one's hard for me. I'm going to say Sasser is back, so I'm going to lean Houston. But if he isn't, and this is the matchup, I wouldn't be surprised if Drake upsets Houston and moves on. But I'm going to go with Houston.
Okay, and facing off against Houston, the winner of Iowa State, Texas, who's moving on?
I like Texas. If that's the matchup, they've played each other, and I think Texas's defense. Iowa State has trouble scoring at times. I think Texas wins that game easily.
Okay, so just so you know, when we did this with Corby, he had 1 verse 3, 1 verse 3 here. You're sitting here with 1 verse 2, 1 verse 2. The one went on for Corby, and on both sides is the one going on for you here on both sides.
It is not. I can't trust Houston with the injury. I think just that unknown. People don't think as college players as important as NFL players or pro players, but Marcus Sasser is a major piece to that Houston team. So with that in doubt, I will take Texas to advance.
All right, so for those following along now, we've got Alabama beating Arizona to come out of the South, and Houston losing to Texas in the finals of the Midwest. They're the first Final Four teams that we've got in. So now we will go down to the East and then the West sides. Let's start with this team here, Purdue taking on the 16. Tom, I'm sure you've seen it. I've actually seen you tweeting about the Purdue team. I've heard you talk about them a bunch, but Purdue's being the one team who's causing up a storm as a team who could potentially be upset early on in this one. Does that potential upset come in the first round against the 16, or do you see them going past that?
If Purdue loses to a 16 seed with Zach Edey, then Painter should be fired the minute after the game. All you got to do is throw the ball into him 50 times. So Purdue easy in round 1, and Purdue's a good team. I know a lot of people are trying to fade them and all this stuff, but they have a heck of a resume, including out of conference wins. So no, they win big.
Now, I've heard this next game is going to be one of the interesting ones to follow along with. FAU taking on Memphis. Does this one spark your interest? And then if it does, how do you kind of proceed with this one?
Yeah, so this is the game I'm looking forward to watching the most. I kind of got a little screwed with Memphis. That was a team I had about a month ago with Kendrick Davis. I had SMU circled last year. That's how good he is. If they had gotten into the tournament, I thought they could win a couple of games. But him and DeAndre Williams together, I think, are two studs that could give teams trouble. The problem is Memphis went on and blew out everybody in the the AAC tournament, and now everybody's on them. Everybody's hot on Memphis. So, but I do think they get the win here, and they match up well with Purdue.
So Memphis advancing through there. Now, next, Duke Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts, it's joked about online as it is right now that Oral Roberts is the team of destiny, but Corby had mentioned this is the tough matchup for them going up against Duke. How do you see this one playing out?
I agree with Corby. I feel sometimes people fall in love with teams, and then when the matchup comes, they still go with the team. I don't know how they deal with Duke's size down low. I think it's going to be a competitive game. Oral Roberts has some players. I think they're going to push Duke, but I would expect Duke to have a double-digit edge in rebounding. That to me gives Duke an edge here. I wish Oral Roberts was playing a smaller team in round 1.
Now, are we looking at a spot here for Tennessee to be upset as the 13 beating the 4 going on to the next round of face-off against Duke, or do you foresee Tennessee taking care of business?
Yeah, this Louisiana is a team I liked all year. At Tennessee, I'm not a Tennessee fan. This isn't a great matchup for Louisiana. I think they're going to have a chance to win this game. It's going to be close. We've already seen a lot of money come in on Louisiana plus the points. I'm going to take Tennessee to win a tight one, but I would not be surprised if the Ragin' Cajun advance.
Okay, and next we're going to Providence, Kentucky.
I'm going to take Providence. I'm not taking Kentucky to do anything. I can't stand watching that team. There's nothing about them I like. Do they have the talent? Could they make a small run here? Yeah, but talk about Creighton. Kentucky has never come together. Similar to North Carolina, a team with a lot of talent. They just never put it all together. So I'm going to fade the Wildcats here.
All right, and now 14-13 is Montana State in a position for an upset here.
A lot of people like Montana State in this game. I could see, Kansas State is a soft 3 seed. I love Kansas State. I love their coach. I think they've overachieved. They have a couple of really good guards. They're not very deep. So I could see this being a struggle, but I'm going to take Kansas State to advance.
All right, and final two games, the 7-10, the 2-15, Michigan State, USC. Where do you lie on that one?
I think I like USC. I think their length is going to cause Michigan State. I just haven't been impressed with all year. I like USC to win that game.
And now Marquette is a team that's getting a lot of traction out there in terms of a team that could go far. I know Corby talked about the fact that he did pick up a ticket on 19-1 on Marquette to possibly win the tournament based on the path that they have to go through to the finals and the level of difficulty that may lie ahead. Are you high on Marquette going into this one?
I think Marquette's a very good team. I think they win their first one, but pretty soon here, Corby and I are going to disagree.
Okay, well, there you go. There's the final matchup of the first round pick through there. But we'll start back with that game then. We'll go with the Marquette game against USC. Tom, how far do you see Marquette going here?
I like USC if this is the matchup. I think they get in that zone. They slow Marquette. Marquette wants to play a frenetic style. I think USC slows it down. They got a good point guard in Boogie Ellis to beat that pressure defense. I think that would be a good game. I'm going to lean USC to win.
Okay, and now the 11-3, we got Providence taking on Kansas State. Who's moving on to take on USC?
Yeah, this is a tough one because I don't really like either of these teams, but I think Kansas State has the easier first round game, so I'll take them to win this matchup.
Well, a question for you then. How much do you take into account the level of difficulty of the game prior? A lot of times you can hear, especially across other sports, oh, they got beat up in the last one. Maybe it's going to be harder to continue that on going forward. Maybe they have an easier, lighter game, and now all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, they didn't have the competition. The other team is rolling because they came through a tough one. When you're kind of building out your bracket, you're looking at potential matchups that could go on here. How much does that play a factor, and how do you yourself envision these games and then kind of break down the matchup moving forward?
Yeah, I do it like this. Like when there's a matchup that I don't really love, like Kansas State and Providence, I'll take a look and see, well, who has the easier first round game? Because, Providence could very well lose to Kentucky, and then this would be Kentucky and Kansas State. But I just think for me, Kansas State has the easier path to winning 2 games than Providence does.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah. I just find it interesting to watch how people kind of analyze those differently and value certain games or certain teams in different matchups and how they can go through different paths and what might change moving forward. But back to the top here. Purdue, Memphis. Is this where Purdue comes up short, or do they continue to go through Memphis?
Well, I tweeted out before Selection Sunday, don't give me Memphis Purdue because I just don't want to have that much money on a game. Now, that was before I realized the whole world liked Memphis. I mean, I thought this line would be about 7 at that point, but everyone's going to like Memphis in this game. I'm going to stick to my guns and go with them. But I think I will say this. I don't hate Purdue. I just think their guards are going to come up short at some point. And Kendrick Davis, one of the top guards in the country. But I think people are sleeping a little bit on Purdue. They're a very good team, but I'm going to stick with my original tweet since they gave me the matchup and take Memphis.
And now who's going on to take on Memphis in the next round between Duke and Tennessee?
I'm going to take Duke. Again, I think Tennessee could get upset. I know both teams could get upset in the first round, but for me, Duke is the more consistent team. Tennessee runs hot and cold, so I'm going to go with the Blue Devils.
And to close out the East Division, Memphis, Duke, Kansas State, USC. Who's moving on to the next round in those 2 games?
I'm going to take Duke in the upper half. I think, again, their size will bother Memphis, and I'm going to take USC to continue on as my sleeper team.
And now the third team to enter your final four: Duke, number 5, USC, number 10. Who is that taking that third spot?
Yeah, it hates me. I hate to do it because I can't stand them, but this is just the way it worked out for me. I'm going to take Duke, but I will say this: to me, this is the region where if you're looking for a lower seeded team, this is where it could come out of. I don't see any team here that is really dominant or. Listen, Purdue's a good team, Marquette's a good team, but I think those are soft 1 and 2 seeds. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a surprise team come from this region.
Okay, so there you go. Third team into the Final Four. Duke added in there as a 5. Now let's close out the other side, going to the West, starting with the top. Kansas, where are we at with Kansas? Are they rolling through the 16, or is this potential upset spot?
Yeah, I'm going with Kansas to win big.
Okay. Just no question about that one. Put them through.
In the next game, a lot of people like Arkansas. I think Arkansas is more talented. Neither of these teams have really hit their stride at any point this season. I was waiting for the Hogs to do it, but I think they get by Illinois.
Okay. And St. Mary's, VCU.
Yeah, this is one where a lot of people like the 12. I don't. I think, people are talking about VCU's defense, but VCU's offense can have trouble scoring at times. And I think St. Mary's slows them down. They make this that kind of slog of a game they like. Give me St. Mary's to advance.
Now, Iona, UConn.
Yeah, I like UConn to pound Iona.
Okay. Now we got TCU in the 6. They're going to face off against one of the first 4 teams here, ASU, Nevada. Nevada's one of those teams that everyone said shouldn't have even been in this tournament. So either way, whichever team comes out of there, how do you foresee this matchup for TCU?
I give TCU a pretty big advantage over both those teams. I just think they're one of they're a dangerous 6 seed.
And Gonzaga was Corby's choice to get through and to win it. It's a team that I'm holding a ticket on here as well. I know we locked it in on the Hit the Books live shows that we did during the season at 34-1. Are you going to break my heart here, Tom, and tell me Gonzaga's run is going to come up short?
Not here, but I think the reason I'm not going to take Gonzaga all the way here is because they have a tough road. A
Right.
really, really tough road here. The committee did Gonzaga no favors at all. Because, like I said, TCU as a 6 seed, I think is better than Kansas State as a 3 seed.
Okay. And now, final 2 games: UCLA, UNCA, Boise, Northwestern here.
I'm going to go UCLA for sure. And then I'm going to go with Boise. I just think this is a game that's going to be played in the 50s, low 60s. Boise has won a lot of close games the last 2 years, so I'm going to lean that way.
All right, now let's close out the West Division. Start back at the top here. Kansas, Arkansas. Who's moving through here?
I like Kansas to win that matchup. If Arkansas has shown me a little more at the end of the year, I would have taken them. I think they have a chance to win, but I'm going to lean Kansas.
And next matchup, we got St. Mary's, UConn.
UConn. I think the St. Mary's will have a lot of trouble scoring against that UConn defense.
So now we go to the side where you said Gonzaga might have some trouble. Is this where their run comes to an end against TCU?
This little pocket here, to me, is if we get these games, is going to be some of the best games of the tournament. I'm going to take the Zags to beat TCU, but for me, that's an even game.
And moving on to face off against Gonzaga, Boise, UCLA.
I'm going to take UCLA.
All right, and now we got Kansas, UConn, Gonzaga, UCLA. So the 1, 2, 3, 4. How do you kind of foresee these final matchups going down to get to the next round?
Yeah, this UCLA Gonzaga game, again, I think I'm picking UCLA because I think Gonzaga has the harder road to this point. I could see TCU beating them. That's why my Final Four pick's not going to come from down here because it could be one of 3 or 4 teams. So give me UCLA in that matchup.
All right, and then to face off against UCLA between Kansas and UConn, who are you taking?
I'm going to take UConn. I think they match up well against Kansas, especially in the interior.
And now a 2 and a 4. Which team is taking on the final spot of your Final Four?
I'm going to go with UConn again because I think they have the easier path. I just don't know who's going to emerge down here from Gonzaga, UCLA, TCU, Arkansas. I mean, there's really good teams down there, so I'm going to go with UConn.
All right, so now our Final Four we're going to have a 2 versus a 4 in Texas, UConn, and a 1 versus 5 in Alabama, Duke. Tom, who is moving on to the final game?
I'm going to go with Alabama to beat Duke. I just think Alabama's got a nice run here to the final game. And then I'm going to go with Texas. I think they can do a lot of things well, and they get to this final game against Alabama.
All right. Now, we're sitting here looking at Alabama, number 1, against Texas. Tom, take it away. Give me your breakdown of the final game for the 2023 March Madness tournament, the national champion.
So I'm a big science guy. So, a couple years ago, I had Arkansas over Colgate as my biggest play ever. So I broke out the Arkansas pillow pet for that game for some good luck. And he got a little famous, and I told people I got a bunch of pillow pets. We don't need him this year. We got last year's champion here. We got the Kansas pillow pet, right? Too late. We don't need him. I'm going to give you a little foreshadowing. We have next year's champion, the Ohio State pillow pet. Watch out for Ohio State. Year too early. We don't need him. The Montana Grizzlies pillow pet, just because I'm the only person on earth who has a Montana Grizzlies pillow pet. That's how many pillow pets I have, but we don't need him. Give me the Alabama pillow pet. Oh yeah, and we got a Texas pillow pet. I come prepared. So is it going to be Sweet Home Alabama? Is it going to be Hook 'em Horns? I'm going to go with the story. I love a good ending. A lot of things have happened to this Texas program. I'm going Hook 'em. I think Texas is a lot to like about this team. They do a lot of things well. They played well down the stretch of the Big 12 tournament. It doesn't always matter, but I think Texas cuts down the nets and wins the national championship.
I love it. I love it. I love that you had all those ready to go. That is incredible. There you go. Your national champion for Tom Casale's final men's tournament challenge of 2023 on the Hammer Betting Network. Texas takes down Alabama. And Tom, I mean, just a formality at this point, I guess. But if you have to pick the final score, what do you take? What are we going with in this one?
Yeah, I think it'll be a pretty, a pretty fast-paced game. Two good defenses, too. Give me 72-69, Texas.
Oh, I like it. Another close one. Corby had a close one in his as well. But there you go. There's the final four, Alabama versus Duke, Texas, UConn. Moving on is Alabama, Texas. And what did you call that? What, the pillow that you got there, Tom?
Oh, these are pillow pets.
There you go.
Just so you know, I got a Michigan one, too, if they're ever good at basketball again. So I got things in the hopper, just in case.
I'm just impressed that you had so many of them. They were all coming out, predicting next year's winners too.
Oh yeah,
I like that.
When you got the Montana Grizzly pillow pet, you have them all.
Fair enough. I like it. There you go. There's Tom Casale's 2023 March Madness Bracket Challenge breakdown. His final winner, Texas, defeating Alabama in the finals, and for the sake of it, winning 72-69 in the finals. If you're looking for more CBB betting guides, postseason betting guides, make sure to head over to the Capwise website. The link to that is in the description of this video. You can go over there, buy their CBB postseason betting guide. It has in-depth analysis on all 68 teams at this point going into the tournament, graphs and analytics for live in-game betting. It has key players, key matchups, coaching history, team history, all that kind of stuff in there. Make sure to use promo code HAMMER to get $5 off of your purchase as well. So head on over to Capwise for their 2023 betting guide. Use promo code HAMMER. Tom, thank you very much for doing this. Really appreciate it. Good luck on your bracket. And if you'd like to compete against Tom and his bracket, make sure to join the Hammer HQ ESPN Bracket Challenge. You can find the link to that in the description of this video as well as on our Hit the Books HQ Twitter account and on our Hammer HQ Twitter account. But Tom, thank you very much. Enjoy March Madness. I'm looking forward to it. I know you are as well. Good luck on your bets and good luck on your bracket.
Thanks. Good luck.